Hello everyone, my name is Mani, and in this video I want to talk about SSH tunneling or SSH forwarding. Now in this video I want to give you a few examples and make this experience of understanding SSH tunneling as simple as possible. Now what is SSH tunneling? So it's pretty much tunneling other traffic through SSH is the definition of SSH tunneling. Now, tunneling is a great option to bypass firewall when you want to access something which is on a remote server on a particular port, but that port is not available to the public or it's not open. So that's when you use it. Now, if you look on the screen, I have mentioned whole bunch of logos and some IP addresses. So let me talk about that first, and then we can go into each example. So the first is a Windows 11 machine, which is running at, I would just talk about the last number. It's running on IP 131. Then we have a Ubuntu machine running on 130. Then currently my local host, my local machine, which is ZorinOS virtual machine, which is running on 133. Okay, now if you look, beside Ubuntu, you will also see our remote desktop server icon, and you will also see Apache icon. That is correct. So it's running a remote desktop server, and it's also running Apache web server. So remote desktop, as you know, it runs on 3389, and Apache web server runs on port 80. Now my local machine, which is the ZorinOS, is also running a Nginx server, which again, it's a web server. It runs on port 80. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the examples that we will do right now. So in the first example, what we will do is I will access the web server, the Apache web server, which is running on the Ubuntu machine, which is on 130, the IP address 130. And we'll try to bring that on my local port on this ZorinOS machine. Okay, I will open my terminal here. I will just show you IPA so you could see it is running on 133. Okay, so we'll clear this out. So what we want to do is we want to bring the Apache web server traffic, which is on port 80 on the Ubuntu machine, to our local port, to our some random local port. Let's say 5454 or 6969. Let's bring it on 6969. Okay, so first we will do SSH, and we will use the option L, and then we want to bring that Apache web server traffic to our local port 6969. That's awesome. And what is the IP address of the machine? If you remember, or maybe let me flash this again. It is 130, 192.168.229.130. Okay, so we will do that. 168.229.130. Now what port are we bringing? We are bringing the port 80, which is Apache server. And now we will simply just log into that machine. Okay, and 192.168.229.130 and enter, and my most secure password. Boom. Okay, we just established a connection and we are in that machine. Now what we need to do is we need to go into the on our web browser and see if it's actually running. So I was trying to make a diagram earlier, but then I was like, I'll just use Photoshop. Okay, so let's do 6969. Perfect. As you could see, it is running on 6969. Now you might wonder, oh, maybe it's running on your local host. No, it's not, because on my local host, as I mentioned earlier, there is an Nginx server running. You could see, welcome to Nginx. Okay, so that is clear. Now what happens if I disconnect? So I will disconnect it right now. So logged out, and the connection just ended. No more Apache server on our local machine. Why? Because it's only running on the Ubuntu. The reason why we were able to run it on 6969 is because we were bringing. So the formula is simple. We use the option L with SSH. We define a local port, and then we define a remote host and the remote port. So our remote host was 130. Our remote port was 80. And then we just established a connection. Okay, now let's take a look at this second example. On our Ubuntu server, there is a remote desktop server is also running. So remote desktop stuff is on 3389. So let's try to bring that to our Windows 11 machine. Okay, let's try to do that. And I will go and I'll show you that it is running. So I'll go into my Ubuntu. Okay, right here, we'll close this, and we'll do here quickly system. Oh man, let me, come on, give me a break. Okay, so we'll try to zoom this in so you guys can see. Okay, so we'll do system cdl status xrdp. Okay, and you can see it is running. Okay, so now what we will do is we will go to our Windows 11 machine, which is right here. Okay, that's awesome. And you could see the IP address is 131, as I mentioned earlier. So let's clear this out. And what we will do is, again, the same technique we will do. And again, the reason why we are able to do the same thing on Windows 11 or Windows 10 is because the Open SSH client is also available on Windows, Mac OS, and on Linux. Every single distribution comes pre-installed with it. So again, we'll do the same option, SSH. We will use the option L, and then we will specify port. Now, which port would you want to? Again, we will use the same port. 16. You know what? Numlock is not working. 6962 this time. Okay, 6962. And then where is our machine located? Our machine is located, as I'll flash it again, on Ubuntu server is located on 130. Okay, so 168.229.130. And what kind of data, what kind of port information we are trying to bring? We are trying to bring 3389, which is a remote desktop information. Okay, so we will do that, and then we will just establish the connection. So we will do money at 192.168.229.130. And then this is the first time I'm establishing a connection. So yes, and then my secure password. We have established a session. Now what we will do is we will go and try to run a remote desktop session. Remote desktop, and then we will do localhost. Okay, I can't even type localhost, and then port we will specify. Which one was it? 6962. Okay, and boom, it is working. That's awesome. That's our second example. Okay, I'll cancel that because we don't want to get deep into remote desktop, how it works. That's none of our business right now. And we'll exit this out, and then now let's try again if it works. Remote desktop. Boom, it will not work because, you know, we just ended the connection. We just ended the tunnel. We destroyed the tunnel. Okay. So in this last example, what I will do is I will let my Ubuntu server access my Nginx server. So if I show you here, the Nginx server is running on localhost. That means it's running on port 80. So what I will do is I will let my Ubuntu server access this Nginx server. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So what we do is, again, we will clear this out, and we will use SSH and the option R, and then on remote port. So just think of any remote port where you want the Ubuntu machine to access. So let's say 6965. Okay, on 6965, Ubuntu will be able to access my Nginx, which is running on my Zorin machine, my local machine. Okay, so I will specify the IP address of my local machine, which is 168.229 and 133, and then I will specify what kind of port data I want to send, and I want to send the port data from my Nginx server, which is on port 80, and then I'll just log into the session. So it was my username at machine was 168, and what was it, 229 and 130. I'll flash here again so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There you go. Okay, and then my most secure password, and boom. Now let's go to our Ubuntu machine and see what's going on there. Okay, so again, we could end this here and see if we have what 6965 we specified. Okay, so see if we are able to browse local host 6965. Okay, so now we're again, we'll do 127.0.0. Come on, 0 down, and 6965. There you go. We are able to access the Nginx server, which is originally running on my local machine, which is the ZorinOS, and we are able to access this here. Now, what happens if I end the connection? So right now it's running. Now if I go and end the connection, it will stop working. So let me do that right now. So I will bring up this here and I will end this connection. So okay, I just ended the connection, and let's go back and see what's going on. So now if I refresh, it will not work because I just ended the connection. So these were just 3 examples of SSH tunneling or SSH forwarding. If you found this video helpful, leave a like, let me know what are your comments or what do you think, if this was easy tutorial or not. And if you want to watch more videos on Linux, cloud computing, subscribe to my channel, Money on Cloud. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.